The cosmos revealed something, and it's terrifying. Imagine watching rockets land perfectly, without GPS, every single time. By the end of this video, you'll discover how these seemingly small changes hint at deeper truths about thinking and existence itself. It all began with a simple question about how NASA landed rockets safely without GPS. Rockets soaring high into space, big, strange machines zooming through the sky. But why did this happen? Nobody knew. Imagine launching something so big and heavy it touches the stars but lands softly back on Earth. It's not just technology, there's magic in that landing too. And nobody has talked about this until now. But how do they do it without GPS, which is they use strange systems and thinking no one else understands? Nobody knows the full story behind those precise landings. It's not just about rockets, there are bigger ideas here too, ideas that make your mind stretch wide open. These rocket lands feel almost spiritual, somehow they remind us of something beyond our everyday lives, but first a thought even more disturbing. There's talk of these landings being tied to things we don't fully understand, yet strange signals and moments that make you wonder if everything is connected somehow. Nobody has talked about this until now. These rocket stories are full of mystery. People who stay curious about existence are rare. Welcome to Cosmic Chetna. But why did this happen? Nobody knew. One day NASA came up with a tech that lets rockets land safely without GPS and the bigger picture. It started as a simple question but ended in something unthinkable. But the real story was buried much deeper. This technology solved a big problem: how to bring rockets back from space smoothly, even when they're far away. But why did this happen? Nobody knew. But the real story was buried much deeper. NASA engineers worked hard and made it all possible with smart thinking and clever designs. They found ways for rockets to land without needing GPS signals or ground support. But why did this happen? Nobody knew. But the real story was buried much deeper. This meant they could bring back rocket parts from space missions more easily, saving time and money. It opened up new possibilities in space exploration. But why did this happen? Nobody knew. But the real story was buried much deeper. Yet there's something strange about it all. Rockets landing without GPS or the bigger picture, that's a big deal. How could such an important thing go unnoticed for so long? But why did this happen? Nobody knew. But the real story was buried much deeper. It made space missions something was off, but nobody could explain what. Wait. You need to hear this. We all know rockets are big and loud and scary when they land on Earth after flying in space. But imagine a rocket landing so gently it's NASA figured out how to do just that with their new tech, something called soft landing. Wait. You need to hear this. But here's the strangest part: this technology wasn't supposed to work perfectly every time. It was designed for a few successes, but failures were expected too. Yet, it worked flawlessly more often than anyone could have imagined. Something was off. But nobody could explain what. Wait. You need to think about this. What if there's something beyond our understanding? Hold that thought. What follows rewrites everything. Imagine you're looking up at the stars and suddenly they start talking back, whispering secrets only a few can hear. That's not just science fiction anymore. It feels something was off, but nobody could explain what. This is the moment the entire story had been building toward. This NASA tech lets rockets land safely without GPS and the subscribe. Now the next part drops very soon. The bigger picture reveals a truth that changes everything. Think back to the opening question. This is the answer. And then one small detail changed everything. We were looking at this amazing NASA technology that lets rockets land safely without GPS and the bigger picture. And then something impossible happened. It wasn't just about precision landing, it was much more profound. And then we realized there's a pattern, almost, and then one small detail changed everything. We started wondering if this technology could be connected to something else strange happening in the universe. And then something impossible happened. Scientists noticed that some of our satellites were also being pulled into patterns we couldn't explain, almost as though they too were guided by unseen forces. And then another mystery unfolded: strange lights and signals detected near these landing sites. And then one small detail changed everything. The data was analyzed again and again, each time revealing more about this strange phenomenon. And then something impossible happened: the pattern of the landings matched with ancient constellations in our sky. And then we started seeing connections everywhere between rocket technology, satellite behavior, even natural phenomena. It was as if these patterns were part of a larger cosmic dance, orchestrated by forces beyond what humans, maybe the universe, already knows the answer. We are just learning to ask the right question. One question remains. The most important one of all. Subscribe before part 8 drops. What comes next is even bigger. The next episode goes even deeper. Subscribe so you don't miss it.